Hi friends, my name is Ajay Dwivedi. In this video, we are going to talk about how to run a SQL Server query on multiple SQL servers. Now, before we proceed there, I would like to say that if you have not tried SQL Monitor monitoring tool, you should definitely give it a try. SQL Monitor is an open source and entirely free tool. You can use it to baseline your production, test servers, UATs, and development servers, irrespective of any environment. SQL Monitor has lot of dashboards, including with this all server dashboard, where you can see whether there is any server which is offline or not accepting user connections, if there is any kind of issue with us with the server like OS CPU, SQL CPU blocking or memory grants issues, those will appear in this last row. If you have any tempdb issue going on a server, you will get to know about that tempdb space issue also here on the dashboard. And this is really very useful because troubleshooting version store issues is very hard in SQL Server world. So this dashboard even lets you know whether whatever disk space in tempdb is being consumed, whether that is because of version store or normal sessions. If it is a version store or a normal session, and you want to get to know the session and you want to kill it, all you have to do is you have to click on this link, which will take you to the all the queries that will have that you need to take action on. Similarly, you have one row on the all server dashboard for space issue, log space issues, and whatnot. So yeah, kindly give it a try. For example, this one is for disk space issue. So on my server, E drive is filled to 80.5%, which is crossing the warning threshold. So my recommendation is go ahead, try this tool. If you have any kind of issue, you can connect to me through WhatsApp or through Slack channel, or even you can directly use ajaydivedi.com/contact-me page, and you can reach out to me for any paid support. Thank you. So let's start with our script. So this multi-server script, we will divide it into two parts. In the first part, in this video, we are only going to run a query in serial manner on multiple servers. In the next session, that is next video recording, I will show how to run the query on multiple servers in parallel sessions so that you can make it much faster. So in this video only we will talk about the first part, that is serial manner. So let's start. So the first thing is I opened PowerShell ISE in administrative mode, and post that I opened a new script window here, and let me save this somewhere so that we can rest assured that we don't lose any data due to any power fluctuation or something. So I'm going to save it here. So let me call this run multi-server serially. Okay, so this is what I'm going to give this name. So what are the few steps? One of the few steps is get list of SQL servers on which you want to run a query. What is the second task? Second task is looping through all the servers when we talk about serial manner. So looping through all the servers and carrying out some running some query that we want. Okay, so the next task is here, uh, create or get the SQL query that should be executed. The third task is loop through all the servers and execute the SQL query against SQL Server. Okay. Finally, save the end result of SQL query from all the servers. So this saving can be either in SQL Server itself. So what you can do is you can pull data from multiple servers and push that data on your central server for some reporting or analysis, further analysis. Other way around can be you can push this data to some Excel. And third thing could be that you want to keep this data as XML format on your system to compare it with further data in future. Okay, so we can do this also. So target of the data end result could be SQL Server, could be Excel, could be XML. Okay, I don't like CSV because CSV has limited exposure when you have a very rich kind of text. So let's start with all these approaches. The first thing is get the list of servers on which you want to perform your action. Now, this part, this list you can get in various formats. For example, if you have to run a query on a list of servers which is provided by external people, maybe some development team, maybe some external auditors, they want to run some query on multiple servers. So essentially, I mean, generally, they will give you a comma separated list of the servers. Okay, so how it would look like? It might look like this: SQL practice. So SQL practice is a server name. SQL monitor is another server name. Demo SQL 2019. This is another server name. Okay. Then you have workstation, another server name. So this is one way where they can provide you a list, okay, which is stored in some text file, or they can directly provide you a raw list. So first method is whatever list they provided, put that list like this in a text file, save that as a text file here. So let me save this here only, server list.txt. So I saved the servers that I want to query in a text file. Okay, so first method could be that I want to retrieve the list of the servers from the text file. So let me take the path of the text file. So I kept the text file in SQL Monitor work folder, and here I take. So here servers list. So what I will do here is, so you can get a list from end users, you can get the data in Excel format, or you can get the list of the servers using some query against your inventory server. So we will talk about all three methods here. Okay, so the first method is list. So what I have to do is dollar server text file equals, and then I provide the path of the text file which has the list of the servers. Save that in this variable. Next thing is we want to get the content of that list. So all we have to do is get content, and we pass the text file. So if I run these two lines together, we should see that we have got our servers here in the output window. Now what I do need to do is I need to save this list in an array. Okay, so I would do like this: servers equals, so this way I am declaring a array, and then I am populating that array here. Okay, so I will rerun all these three lines, and now we can play with that array which we got. So I want to find out how many servers do I have in got in this variable which has the list of servers from the text file. So I can say that servers.count, which gave me 4. That means I have 4 servers in my list. Okay, if I want to put some validation saying that hey, you have not provided any server or something, so what I can do here is I can say servers.count, okay, if it is equal to 0. Okay, if it is equal to 0, In that case, I can return a message to the end user saying that, hey, your servers list is empty. So let's write this code there. If $servers dot count equals 0, so I can say that kindly add some servers to the server text to the list file. Okay, and then I can say this is the file here, and I can push this message as write error. Okay, so let's see how this looks like. So we did not get any error because the server list is not empty in our case. It has 4 rows in it. That's why this evaluated to false. That's why we did not get into this block. But if this server list would have been empty like this, then we would have got an error here saying that kindly add some servers to the server list. So whenever we are writing a complex code, it's very important to add remarks, what you are trying to do, why you are trying to do that. Second thing is to declare variables in such a way that you always know their behavior. So I have declared an array first, then I have populated that array with whatever content I got from the text file. Okay, so if I do not get any data from the server list, then this variable, servers variable, which is an array, will always have 0 rows in it. I mean 0 elements in it. So this syntax will always work here. So if I run this, okay, that's and this text file does not have any data, I will get this error which we got on my screen here. Okay, so if I evaluate this thing here, you will see that the count is 0 because we did not get any server from this list. So let me repopulate that list, save the file, and if we rerun this code, now we should not get any kind of error. So our first piece is done. The first piece is get list of the servers, okay, from a text file. So this example is of a text file. If you have to read list of a server from an Excel, you have to utilize modules like import Excel. If you have to read the list of servers from inventory, okay, some inventory server, then you have to connect to that inventory server using some SQL query, using PowerShell, and get the list. And then you may need to even extract the names of the servers that you want to run your query on. Okay, so this was the first method. I will comment this method, list from file. Okay, so I'll comment this method. Now let's go by the next method that I usually follow is I want to get the list of the servers from SQL Server, from my inventory server itself. Okay, so I will say get list of servers from inventory. Okay, and I have to write a query. So let me open SSMS first. This server localhost, which happens to be SQL Monitor. Okay, you can see I'm writing this code on SQL Monitor server here up at the top. So that is this first server here. What I need to do is I have to query my inventory here. So I have a table in DBA database. The name is instance details. So I can run this table and it will give me the list of servers that I have in my environment. Let me pick it up, pick the servers which are enabled and live right now. So there I got the list of the servers. Now I only want the columns which are my concern. Okay, so we got this list of the servers that I am interested in. So I'll copy this query. Now I need to get this list from PowerShell. Okay, so what I have to do is I have to first say here is SQL get servers equals, and I'm going to declare it as a here string, then pass my SQL query there. So the SQL which I'm going to run on inventory server to get the list of all the other servers is ready. So this is the SQL. Next thing I want to do is I want to run this uh, SQL on inventory server. Okay, so I will say invoke dba query. Okay, my preferred way is this way. First I make a connection to my inventory server. Okay, so initially I will declare this inventory server up at the top. So I will say here declare variables. Okay, declare global variables. Then the first one is inventory server. Okay, so in my case my inventory server is SQL Monitor. Okay, uh, second thing is my inventory database, that happens to be DBA. Okay, so I'll run these two variables also. Now here what I want to do is I want to make a connection to our inventory server first. Okay, so here what I will say is connect DBA instance. Okay, if you are not getting these functions on your environment or on your server wherever you are writing this code, you have to install DBA tools PowerShell module. Okay, to install DBA tools PowerShell module, you can run a command like this: install module DBA tools, and then you can say scope equals to all. Okay, so this is how you install DBA tools. Once you install the DBA tools, you should get all the commands which you see on my screen. For example, connect DBA instance and whatnot. So I am going to call connect DBA instance function. Then what SQL instance I have to connect? I have to connect to inventory server. What database I want to connect? I want to connect to inventory database. Okay. Then what credentials do you want to use? If you don't pass any credential, by default it will use your current logged in Windows credential. So I want to continue with that. Next thing is, while connecting to SQL Server, do you want to tell this connection manager that trust whatever the certificate is coming on? So I want to do that. So I will say trust server certificate. And if you want to encrypt the connections, you can even do this. Last thing is, I want to generate a failure if, okay, I want to generate a failure and terminate the script execution if there is any issue in script execution. Okay, so that would be enable exception. Okay, that is not available in this parameter, I think. So I will say error action stop. Okay, so this is the way to open a connection to your SQL Server instance using DBA tools module. So let me put initially import module DBA tools. So import DBA tools module, and here we will say import module DBA tools. Remember, in order to install DBA tools module, you have to say install hyphen module DBA tools, and then in the scope you have to say all users. So this way I import the DBA tools, I declare my inventory server inventory database, and then I write a query. I mention the SQL query that I want to run on inventory server, that will give me the list of the servers where I want to run some query. Okay, so this query will give me the list of the servers when I run this query on my inventory server. So pretty much this is ready. All I have to do here is I have to tell that this is the query that you have to execute. Okay, so hyphen query, and then we can say SQL get servers. So I'm pasting this half of the code on the next line. If you see here, there is this back tick. Okay, so when you put a back tick in PowerShell and there is no other any other character here, then you can divide a single line of code in multiple lines like this with this back tick. Okay, so this is what essentially I did here. So let me run this. Oh, sorry, I cannot run a query here. My mistake. This is making a connection, not running a query. So this is how you make a connection. So if I run this now, okay, I should be able to make a connection. So now you can see it returned a SQL Server connection variable here. Okay. So what I have to do is I want to save this connection variable, connection in a variable. So con means connection, and I will say inventory server. Okay. So now we'll store these details in this variable. Sorry, I selected extra text, unnecessary. So here we are. Now the connection has been saved in this variable. Okay. Next, we want to run the SQL query that we just created some on this inventory server. So what we have to do here is we have to pass the connection variable, then pipe it to invoke DBA query. Okay, and then we have to mention what database on what database you want to run this query. So I want to run this query on DBA data on inventory database, which is already made clear in the connection string. So I don't need to pass this database here right now because my query by default will run on the default database which I used for making the connection. So all I have to do here is I have to mention that what query I have to execute. So query would be SQL get servers. Okay, and best practices also say that if you are going to run something big, okay, I mean a query which might take more than few seconds, it's better you give it a good application or program name so that you can always identify it with the diagnostics queries like who is active, sp who, sp health check. Okay, so if you want to provide the application name of your own, what you can do is here you can say uh, application, no, I think program, no, what is that called? Let me check. What is that called? I think, it is called client name. Okay, so I can say that give it a client name, and this should be the client name. So I can give it the same name as my script, run multi server serially. Okay, dot ps1. Cool. So now let me run these statements together. Here you can see I got my result from inventory server. So this was my query. I made a connection to my inventory server, and then using that connection, I ran a query on that connection. So the connection was for inventory server. I ran this query on inventory server, and I got this result from my SQL query. So now this result, if you see carefully here, it is a tabular representation of the data. So it is similar to what we got in SSMS. In SSMS, we got something like this. The same data is being represented in textual format like this. So what is happening here is this result set that I am getting, it is a collection. Okay, it is a collection. .NET collection you can say. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to save these results into some variable like we did last time. So I say servers equals to @ and this thing, and then I again say here save this thing here in this variable. Okay, so let me rerun these two lines and see if we got some data in the variables. So yes, we got the data in the variables. So first part is done. Our first part was to get the list of the servers on which we want to run the query. So we got the list of all the servers on which we want to run our query in this variable called servers. Okay, so that was our first. Second thing is create or get the SQL query that should be executed on all the servers. Okay, so suppose I want to find out information of services from all the servers. Okay, I want to find out information of services from all the servers. Essentially what I want to do is I want to run this query on all the servers. Select star from sys.dm server services. Okay, so I want to run this query, save this on all the servers and save this result in Excel format. This is my target, suppose. So I have to copy this query and create a variable to store this query. So SQL get dm server services equals to, and then we provide a here string here. Key point to remember is in here string, once you put at the rate and double quote, you cannot put any other character on the same line. Same goes for the ending. Once you put a double quote and then at the rate, you cannot put any other character here in the same line. Okay, you should not put at all, otherwise it would be a syntax error. So I declared a here string. Now my target is to run this query on all the servers that I have got in my servers variable. Okay, so I have got around these servers in servers variable 1 2 3 4 5 6. So I have to run this query on 6 of the servers. Okay, so what we have to essentially do now here is we have to start a loop. Since we are talking today only about serial manner, so I have to start a loop. There are various loops in PowerShell. The easiest one is for each loop. So I will say for each and dollar $server in, and then you have to provide the array in which you have all the servers. So I have all the servers in this collection list, collection array list. So I will put that servers here, and I will say that get one server at a time from that collection. Okay, and that row would be called server. Okay, so what will happen is we start a loop. Then PowerShell will get this row first, the top row. Next it will get the second row. Next it will get the third row. Next it will get the fourth row in this server variable. Okay, so servers variable represent the entire list. This server variable represent one row at a time. Right now it does not have any value, but once we go inside the loop, it will represent one row at a time. Okay, so let me make it simple for you folks to understand how this works. Is what I'm going to do is I'm going to get just top row of that list and assign that to server variable. So to get the top row of that list, all we have to do is we have to say the array, and then in square brackets you have to provide the index number. So for top row it would be 0 index. So what I did here is I simply said this thing, that means it gave me the first row of that array or collection. Okay, and then we assigned that to servers. So now in the servers I have the first row of the servers list that I got from our inventory server. From here I have to extract server this SQL instance variable. I have to extract this SQL instance port name, port number, and I have to extract the database DBA database. Okay, so what I will do here is, since we already saw that the entire row is being represented by server variable, to get this to get any attribute, okay, to get any attribute or column from that result set, all I have to do is I have to say that variable dot the attribute. So here we will get the SQL instance. Same way we have to get the port and database name. So let's do that here. So I will say SR SQL instance equals dollar server dot SQL instance. Now I want to get port number, so I will say port number equals to $server dot, and I take the name of the column or attribute, so that thing. Next we say DBA database equals same logic again, server dot, and then our database name. Okay, so since we already have some value in this server variable, let me rerun all these 3 lines and show you whether it worked or not. So there we are. Now if I check the data for database variable, I get it. If I check data for port variable, I did not get it because that server row itself does not have any port number in the column value. Okay, and then we get our SQL instance in this variable. So this is how you extract values from a collection, okay, by using their attributes names. Now from here we have to repeat the same thing which we did earlier when we were trying to connect to inventory server. So we will make a connection, okay, and we will run a query against that connection. So what I will say is, I will say connection SQL instance con SQL instance equal to, and then I say I want to run this function connect DBA instance for SQL instance, and the name of the instance is whatever instance is present in that row. Okay, what database I want to connect to? I will what do you call? I want to connect to master database for each server. Okay, so that's why I'm hard coding the master here. Now what a program name or application name you want to give? Okay, I want to say it run multi-server serially.ps1 again here also, so nothing changes in this line anymore. So what I am saying essentially is create a database connection to the server on which I want to run my query. Okay, and this thing is happening within a loop. So in the loop, okay, in the loop, how many rows do we have in the loop? In the end we have these many rows, so the loop will run these many times, and the value of each row one at a time will be saved in this server variable. Okay, to get the individual column values, all we have to do is we have to say whatever is the row representation, that is server here. So server dot whatever column name is or attribute name is. So that's how we got all the attributes. Now we make a connection to that server, whatever server we are currently looking at. So we made a connection to that server using this query. So let me do that. So here we are getting this error, target principal name is incorrect, generate SSPI something something. So let me see what is wrong here. So did something go wrong here? No. Can I connect to this server on SSMS? Let me just make sure it happens. So if I try this, here also I am getting error. Let me check if it is because of this thing. I am still getting that error. Yeah, but this is a good use case to show me the try and catch scenario here. Okay, so suppose there are some servers for which you will get error, there are some servers for which it will succeed. So what you have to write is, you have to write in your query in your script in such a way that if it fails for some servers, you record those servers in a variable. Okay, and what for whatever servers it succeeded, you have to record those server name in a separate list, so that in the end once you run your script, you can tell to the end users that for these servers you were able to successfully execute this query, for these servers it failed because of these reasons. So we want to do that. So what we will do here is, first to store the failed server list, we will create that thing here. So servers, servers failed and I declare this list, this array to store the failed servers. Then I declare an array to store the list of the successful servers. Okay, and then I declare an array to store the result. Okay, now to store the result, I will not be declaring a normal generic array. Rather, I will declare a .NET collection array list. So to declare a .NET collection array list, all you have to do is system dot collections dot array list. Okay, so now this results variable is a collection, is a array list. Okay, so I'll talk about the benefit between normal generic array list versus a collection array list in some time. Okay, so wait for that moment. So here what I want to do is, if my query execution or connection making fails, I want to put that in try catch block so that I can store that server details whichever has failed in the failed servers list. So what I can do here is, I can say try this. Okay, and if it fails, then catch the error. Okay, so to catch the error, I will save that in a variable. I call that error message. The errors usually they are stored in this after the catch block, directly after the catch block. If you use this dollar underscore, then dollar underscore represents the error which generated which is generated and which due to which you entered into the catch block. So this dollar underscore is representing that specific error. Okay, so what we want to do is, we want to extract the error message. Okay, so we will say dollar underscore dot exception dot message. Okay, so if you want to see and debug on your own, so what you can do is, there is a global error variable on every system. Okay, so if you want to see that global error variable, all you have to do is print this dollar error here, and you will see all the error messages that has happened since you started your console window or your PowerShell screen, I mean PowerShell client. Okay, so let me take the latest error. So this is the latest error that has happened. Okay, no, I don't think this is the latest. This is the first one, I guess. But this is the idea. So you got the error object here. Now what I am doing essentially in above code, where you see this thing, dollar dot exception dot message, is I am getting only the message of the error. Okay, so what I am saying here is dot exception dot message. So if you notice here, this is the message which you see here. Okay, so this was the entire error message. Okay, including the message, line number, at what character, which particular piece of code generated that error. Okay, and at least some of the call stack. I don't like all those things. All I want is, I want this line which tells me the actual error that has happened. Okay, so to get the actual error that has happened, all you have to do is go to the current error message that is being represented by dollar underscore here in the catch block. Then extract the exception, what you call attribute of that, and within the exception attribute, I am taking out the message. Okay, so now what I can do here is, I can save this error message and the server name. Okay, in my what you call in this errors variable here, server failed variable here. Okay, so what I will do here is, I can say, rather let me declare this servers failed also as a collection array list. Okay, so I have declared the servers failed also as a collection array list. So what I will do here is, first I will create a hash array. So how to declare a hash array? Hash array you can simply declare like this. Okay, you have to put @ and then curly braces, and in the end, in new line you can put another curly brace, or even in the same line, it does not matter. Okay, so I declare a hash array here. Now let me save this. This is just a dummy, let me complete it. So I want to convert this array as a PowerShell object. Okay, so ps custom object. Okay, this is one way of converting the hash array into a PowerShell object. Okay, so this is what I am doing now. In that hash array, okay, I have to define the attribute and its value. So the first attribute that I want to define is SQL instance, and what should be the value for that SQL instance attribute? The value should be whatever SQL instance we are currently processing. Okay, the next attribute that I want to add here is error message, and we will save the error message that we just extracted from the error when we entered in the catch block. So if, okay, if I run this entire piece of code and this inner code fails, we will end up in the catch block. In the catch block, the first thing we do is we extract the error message, and then we create a hash, what you call, we create a this, I forgot, we create this hash array. Okay, and then we convert that hash array in a PowerShell object using this method here. Okay, so just to show you how it looks like now, let's see. There we are. So this code executed without any issue. Now let me just print this thing. Why we did not get this? Here we go. Okay, so this is how it would look like. Right now we don't see any error message, because when you manually run it, okay, it is not entering into this try catch block. Okay, so initially up at the top, let me put this thing here, dollar error action preference equals to stop. Okay, so what will happen is, if we run this script and there is any failure, then script will stop right at that moment where the failure has happened. Okay, this is the idea here. So if I run this code as a whole now, what essentially should happen is, if there is any failure for any server, okay, we will end up in the catch block. In the catch block, we will note down the exception, and we will write that exception in the in our this variable servers failed. So let's write it out. So this dot, so it's a collection. So it in order to add an element in a collection, you have to use this add method here. Okay, so this is how you do. Okay, so this is added, and in the end I want to print this thing here. So let's print this success failed list. Where is the failed list? Okay, so let's see if this code works. So this code, we have saved it here, right? Let's run it on another PowerShell window, not window, rather another through command line. So we want to run that PowerShell script through command line like this. Okay, so let's run that, and we will clear the screen before start every time. So there you see. Okay, so out of the 7 servers that we had in our list, for 3 of them we got error, and here we get the server name and the error which we received for those 3. Okay, so let's make it a little bit more friendly. What we can say here is, we can say okay, we can say how many servers have failed first. Okay, so we say servers failed, okay, dot count. So how many servers for how many servers we failed. Okay, we can mention that detail here. So we can say, when you want to run a complex evaluation within double quotes, you have to run that evaluation like this. Okay, so what we essentially are saying is itna of itna total it should be like this, my mistake, not is curly braces. Okay, itna of, so total servers dot count have failed. Okay, so this is our, so we will print this message on output screen, write output. Okay, or you can put it as a console host command with colorful colors. So you say this red. Okay, now let's display the successful also. So servers success dot count itna have succeeded. Okay, so we have to yet put a list of the successful servers. So if this try block succeeds successfully, we want to add that server in the successful list. So all we have to do here is we have to say server successful plus equals to and add the SQL server which we are currently processing. That's it. Okay, so now in the end, after all the processing, what we will see here is we will see this line, one line will say for these servers, for 3 out of this total 7 we failed, for this out of this total 7 we succeeded. Okay, so let's see. So errors, the failed line will appear in red and the other line will appear in green. So let's see this now. There we are. Okay, so 2 out of 6 have failed, 4 out of 6 have succeeded. Cool, folks. So now where we are, there we have made a lot of mistakes in typo. Okay, so we store now within each loop block, we make a connection to each individual server and we save that connection to this variable const SQL instance. Okay, next thing what we want to do is we want to run a query against that SQL Server instance. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to pass the connection string of that server and then we have to say that uh, execute this query. What is the query? Query is get DM server services. Okay, so this is what we essentially want to do. So let me do this, rerun it. Okay, so let me rerun this query and here you can see we got the result of that query on our output screen, but we don't want the result on our output screen. Rather, we want to save the result in a variable and eventually what we want to do is we want to save this result in either SQL database on inventory server or we want to push that data into Excel. So let's see how to do that part now. Okay, so what we have to do here now next is instead instead of just displaying this result here on the output screen, I want to push this result into our results collection array that we declared here. So what I have to do here is we have to say whatever row we have got, pipe it to for each object. Okay, so we say for each hyphen object. Okay, and then here we do the processing. So when we say for each object, okay, within the for each, this dollar underscore is being represented by each line of the output that we got. Okay, suppose whatever server we have in the list right now, what is the server we have in the list right now? We have demo SQL 2019. Okay, so if let me see what connection. do we have in this? We have for demo SQL 2019. Okay, so if I run this query here up to this much for demo SQL 2019, sorry, why it is giving me error? Cannot bind argument to parameter query because it is an empty string. Okay, my mistake. Let me run this query here. So there, query is created now. So if I rerun this thing, I should get the result for that server. Okay, so just to show you how it looks like, I will format this result as a table. Format table auto size. Sorry. Okay, so you can see here after running that query on my demo SQL 2019 database, I got two rows, one row for each SQL Server service, that is for agent and for database engine itself. Okay, so when I pipe this result with for each object function, and within the curly braces I specify dollar underscore. Essentially this dollar underscore is representing one line at a time. Whichever line we are processing at that moment, it represents that line there. Okay, it is a similar concept which we were using in for each here. Okay, so we had all the list of the servers in the servers variable. Okay, that was an array, and then when we said for each server in servers, what essentially we were doing is we were getting one row from that collection or array list. Okay, so same thing we are doing in this line of code, where we say that whatever result we got, pipe it to for each, and get each row like this. So if I run this thing again, I will get kind of similar result which we saw earlier, two rows being represented here. Okay, so if I push it again, format table hyphen auto size, you will not see any difference at all. Okay, so earlier also when we ran this statement, okay, both of these statement results look alike. Okay, but the difference here is, here with for each object I have the control to take some action at each and every row level of that result. Okay, so what I want to do with this control, what I want to do here is I want to save this row in our results variable that we have declared above. You already saw how we assign new element in array list. Where did you see that? You saw it here in this try catch block. Okay, so same method we will use here now. So we will say results dot add. Okay, and then we pass the current row in that. Okay, now let's rerun this code, and in the end let's print the results. So we say dollar results, and then format table auto size. We print that result in the screen. So here we are now. Good. What is the best part here now? The best part here is, what we did is we ran the query on all the servers in a loop. We stored that result in results variable, and once the loop is over, in the end of the script we are analyzing the data which is present in the results variable. That's the classic part. We are not printing the result as and when they are occurring. Rather, we are storing them in a variable, and then we are taking some action on them. So right now my action is only to display on the screen. We will change that also. Now you will ask me why we are getting these numbers up at the top. Okay, so those numbers up at the top are coming from this add function that we used for the collection. So if we want to get rid of those numbers, we have to say out null, so that the output generated by this add function is sent to a null device, and we don't get any result set at all on our screen. Okay, same goes here also. I will simply pass this thing to null. Okay, in some cases I like to display I like to print more friendly messages. So what I will do here is, whenever we are inside a loop, the first thing I want to do here is I want to tell that I am working on this server. Okay, so I will say working on itna. Okay, we will say this, and we will display this message in some colorful manner. So we will say foreground color yellow. Okay, so what is the server on which we are working right now? We are working on this particular SQL server. Okay, so this message will be printed out, and if we get some error, okay, I want to print that error while processing that server itself in the catch block. So here I will say uh, uh, with a space of one tab, we will say that error occurred. Okay, we will say error occurred, and what is the error? We will print that error message here. Okay, so I want to print this error message in red color. Okay, this is what I want to do. So let's see how this looks like now. There we are. So how it looks like is this way. We get the message working on this server, working on this server, working on this server, working on this server, and then we processed all the servers, okay, for which we were interested. Then we, in the end, we got a message saying that 0 out of 5 have failed and 5 out of 5 have succeeded. Okay, so and we after running the query for each server, we restore the result in result variable, and we are displaying that result variable here on the output screen. So let's save that results in some Excel. So to deal with Excel, we have to import another module, which is import Excel module. Okay, so we import another module called import Excel. Now to push this results data into Excel, let's first provide the path for the Excel. Okay, so usually in my environment, I save everything in the downloads folder. So I will say whatever is the user profile. Okay, usually user profile simply means up to the this path. See users A Divedi. Here in users profile, I have a downloads folder. Okay, so I assume I am correct. Let me just go there and check. So here is downloads. Okay, so if I check any of these items, let's check the path. C users Ajay Divedi and downloads. So I am correct in this place. Okay, so I want to save my Excel file on the downloads path for whatever user is running the script, and I want to give it a name as my Excel dot XLSX. Okay, sorry, XLSX, and then we want to say export the result. Okay, so we got the result variable, we pipe it to export Excel. Okay, and we provide the path of the Excel, and then I want to provide a worksheet name also. So I would say services all servers. Okay, so if I run this script entirely now, what will happen is, instead of showing this result on the screen, I would be sending the data to Excel, and this is my Excel here. So let's save this result. Let's rerun this script. Okay, so I should get my Excel here saved in the downloads now, and if I open it, I don't have Excel on my machine, so I cannot open it like this. I don't have Excel to show you folks. So what I will do is I will import this Excel one more time just to show you. So what I can say here is import Excel to show you the content, and I will provide the Excel path here. Sorry, $Excel. My mistake. Excel variable does not exist, so I will have to do this thing here. So here you can see I got the data from that Excel now. So I can print this data as a table format just for our verification. So here you can see. So this time I am reading the data from this Excel using this command import Excel. Okay, and this whatever it is. So remember, this is the same way with which if somebody provide you a list of servers in Excel, this is the same way using which you will read that Excel. So in order to read Excel, you have to import the import Excel module. Then you have to run this command import Excel and provide the path of the Excel. And if you have a particular worksheet in that Excel that you want to import, okay, you have to provide the worksheet name there. In my case, I had only one worksheet in the Excel, that's why I did not provide any worksheet name. Okay, and then you have to save this result in a variable, and rest of the processing of the code would be exactly same. So once you get the data from the Excel into a variable similar to what we did here in this place, okay, so once you get all the data from Excel in this servers variable, rest of the code is exactly same, nothing changes in that logic. Okay, so this was all about Excel. Now let's instead of Excel, I assume that you want to save this data to SQL Server. So what you have to do is you have to use write dba data table. Okay, then you have to provide the SQL instance on which you want to save this result. In my case, I want to save this result on my inventory server. Okay, so I will say inventory server. On what database you want to save this result? So I want to save this result in tempdb database. Okay, then next thing I want to say is if the table does not exist, okay, if there is no table already to save this result, then create that table. So I want to say auto create table. Okay, next thing what I want to do here is I want to provide the name for my table. So the name would be uh, all okay, all servers services. Okay, this is the table name that I'm going to give. So this line, what it will do is it will consume the result, it will convert it into data rows .NET objects. Then all those data rows would be saved on this server, inventory server, in tempdb database. If the table does not exist, it would be auto created. Okay, one second, I think my headphone got disconnected or something. Oh no, it is working. Good. So this table would be auto created and this would be the table name. That's it pretty much. So let me do this thing here as I usually do. I like to print messages of what action my script is currently taking. So it will say here writing, not writing, rather pushing the data, pushing the result into table, and then we will provide the table name dot dot dot. Okay, so here I will say pushing the result into inventory server dbo scheme dot, this is my table name. Okay folks, so now we will print this message for end user, write host, and I will use the color here green, rather dark green or gray will do. Okay, so now let's rerun this script from scratch, and this is how it looked like. Okay, I'm getting this kind of error. So it did not save the result into the tempdb. Okay, I think, yeah, it did not save, I guess, but rest of the things worked. So let me make sure I get an error instead of warning here if this failed. So to make that happen, all I have to do here is, oh sorry, instead of using the server name here, I can say con inventory server, because we created a connection entire connection for inventory server, so we will use that connection. After this we should not get the error. Okay, So let's try now one more time. Yeah, we did not get error this time because we are using a connection, and when we define that connection up at the top somewhere, if I go up, search it up, when we defined that connection here, we said that whatever certificate is coming from SQL Server, trust that certificate and encrypt the connection. Okay, so the earlier error which we got, that was for certificate not being trusted. So we are specifically instructing through the connection string that trust the certificate. That's why this script executed successfully when I changed it to connection variable that we got. Okay, so let's validate whether the result has been pushed to the table or not. So I said I want to save the data in tempdb, so let me refresh tempdb and tables, and here we got our table. Okay, and we got the result also. So we got the result, but it is missing the server name here. The result does not have a column representing from what server the rows came from, and it's a big problem for me. Okay, I would not know which row represents which SQL server. So now what I want to do is I want to drop this table. Okay, I want to recreate this table, and I want to add a server name here to identify which row is coming from what server. So let's see how to do that now. Okay, so we go back in the same script. Okay, so we go back in the same script up at the top. Okay, when we are running with the when we are running that SQL query to get the SQL services from each and every server. Okay, at that time, in this query, I want to tell what is the server, okay, on which I am running this query. So one method is when I run this query on any server, like we did here. Okay, one method is I can say that this is the SQL instance on which I am running the query. So I can say at the rate server name. So the same result which did not have any identification of the server, now it will include the result of at the rate server name. Okay. Now there is a problem with this approach also. The problem is maybe the people who want me to get some information from all the servers, they they know a server by the name like myprod. Okay, suppose they know that server by the name of Facebook server. Okay, but in reality the server name is db prod 01. So for dbas, when they run at the rate server name, they will get db prod 01. But when application people, when they make a connection to SQL server, they use this Facebook server keyword, which has a dnsa entry in the in active directory, which again points back to this server only. Okay, so they want the result with this keyword in the results in the server name column, not this at the rate server. So for this, what we will have to do is we will say that, hey, we are going to receive a parameter from outside. So we will say that we want to run this query, and that query will receive a parameter from outside. So this is what essentially I'm doing here by placing this at the rate SQL instance. At the rate SQL instance, I'm telling that it is a parameter now. So I will replace our earlier SQL query with this query now here. And then next thing which we have to do is we have to provide the value for this parameter through command line when we are running that query. So this query we are running at this place. So now at this place we have to provide the value for this SQL instance parameter. So here we will say SQL parameter, and it has to be a hash string. Okay. Mhm. Okay, so here we say this is the parameter and this is the value. Okay, now in the end, so what will happen now, this query will run. That query has the server name which we are passing from the from here. So in the result we will which we get, there would be a server name SQL instance column there. So the first part is solved. Now we have to push the new result in our table. So this time truncation will not work because we have a table, existing table there. So we can say drop create table if there is any such parameter here. Let me check. I don't think it is there. So let's drop that table for now manually. Okay, so I'll go ahead and drop this table manually. Yeah, so our tempdb is now empty. So let's rerun our script, and ideally it should save the result in SQL table. Okay, with a new column, the name of the column should be SQL instance. So here we got our result, and let's see if we got SQL instance or not. So here we got the SQL instance. Okay, what if I want to pass two columns as a parameter? Okay, so for that it is pretty easy. It is very easy. All you have to do is, in the same script where we were passing the parameters, same line where we are passing the parameters, uh, you can do like this. Let's say I want to pass another parameter. So I can say parameter name, suppose my DBA database, and I can pass this DBA database parameter there. Okay, so let's see if this works. So I will go ahead and save this in the in this this and this. Okay, and we will drop the table. I may be wrong here, so we will have to change that semicolon to comma if I am wrong. Ideally I should not be, but let's see. Okay, so the table is deleted. Let's rerun our code, and in this time what we are doing is, instead of passing one parameter to our SQL query, this is our SQL query, it has two parameters now. Okay, so instead of passing one parameter, I am passing two parameters here. So query accepts two parameter, and I am passing those parameters here in this code. And in the end, I am saving whatever results we got. I am saving that result in tempdb. The table name would be all server services. So let's run this. There we are. So we got the result and we saved it. So let's remove all these things. Okay, so let's rerun that, refresh that window and rerun our select. So there we are. This time we got our DBA database parameter result also here. So that's it, folks. This is how you run a SQL query on multiple servers. If you got the input list of the servers in a text file, then you have to use this method. If you got the input list of servers in Excel, then you have to use the function import Excel. If you have got the list from some SQL query, so you have to run your query on your inventory server. Okay, and whatever result you have got, if it is a collection array, like in my case, I got a result which had 3 columns in it. Okay, so whatever result I got, I had 3 columns in it. So if you have got this kind of data, the first thing you have to do here is you have to within the loop, you have to extract each and every attribute that you want to use in your script. I wanted to use all these attributes, so I extracted those attributes, and then I am using those attributes the way I like. So here, for example, I am using 2 of the attributes by passing them to the query. Similarly, you can make use of this thing in whatever way you like in your case. And once we are so whenever we are running some query to against a server, we are doing that in a try block. If the script fails, we end up in the catch block. In the catch block, we capture the error message, and then we convert that error message in a hash array. Okay, then after converting that to hash array, we convert that to a PowerShell object using this PS custom object declaration, and then once we converted that to an object, we add that into this collections array list collection. Okay, so in the end, if the server is successful, then in the try block at the end, that server is added to this successful servers list. If the server failed, then that is added in the servers failed collection. And if everything went well, then the result is saved. Okay, so the result is saved in this. Let me push the to new line. So the result is saved in the results collection. Okay, and once we are done with processing, we can push the result either to some Excel, or we can directly push that to SQL Server tables. Thank you. Keep it there. Thanks, folks. Have a great day. And yeah, as mentioned earlier, do try SQL Monitor. And if you are looking for any paid support, you can reach out to me. Thank you.